We're missing someone. She didn't want to go first. Oh, there she is. Oh, dang it. That was our plan, right? To all come in on. Dang it.
Yeah, I was just, you guys just forgot about our plan.
Wait, I did. Well, hello. We're live, right?
Yes.
I think so.
Technology.
Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody to our design challenge. So just to give anyone some background for anyone who wasn't around this morning or didn't see our stories, basically what the design challenge is every year, for 2 years in a row now, we get all of our designers together. Everyone comes up with a concept for an app. And they are given 7 hours to execute it. So we were allowed to do branding before, but no actual designs for screens or anything like that was supposed to be done prior to today. So basically what we're gonna do is we're each gonna take about 10 minutes. We're gonna walk through and show you what each of us have come up with. If there's any time at the end of each of our personal times, we'll take directed questions, and at the end, we'll take additional questions for the group. So that being said, I guess I can go ahead and start. Hopefully nothing broke since I last checked it. Here. Okay.
That's a good point. I should run through mine.
So my app is called TBD. Originally that was my placeholder, but then it made a lot of sense. My idea for my app came from my husband and I. We have a jar of movies, and we each put 25 different titles in there. We don't know what each other's are, and every time we don't know what to watch, we just pull a movie instead. Because we used to spend a lot of time browsing through all sorts of different streaming channels trying to figure out what to watch. And so I thought about how much time that it actually saved us, and I was thinking, I wonder if we created an app for that concept, but you could use it for anything. It would help people save time on those crazy choices that sometimes just take too long, or maybe adding an element of surprise to things to make things more interesting. So I'll show some examples of different ways this could be used, but my app's called TBD. So without further ado, this was a loading animation that I spent a significantly too much time on early this morning. And about 10:30, I was like, okay, I just have to stop. I've gotten very used to animating in Webflow, and Figma doesn't quite have the same finesse, but I did what I could. So I think it turned out pretty okay. So the way I've set up this app is we have the dashboard, your jars, which are basically like ongoing groupings that you would like continue to pull from over time. You can add, and then you would have like your friends list and notifications in your settings. So right here, when you land, you can see any of your active jars. So I kind of, the way that I was thinking about this is like, you know, you have things in a jar, it's more long-term. If you pull a slip out of a hat, it's like a short-term one-time thing. And so that was kind of how I'd set this up for different options, which I'll get into when I show how to add. But when you land here, you can see your long-term like jars where you'd be pulling from things. So like if you had like a list of ideas for weekend trips, and whenever you want to take a weekend trip, you could pull one. Or game night games, outdoor activities, and you can see the different people who are in these with you who would have submitted ideas, and you can see how many they have of their ideas have been drawn. It's like splurge items. So I don't know if you guys have this, but I have a bunch of things that I would love to buy, but I can't buy them all. So I have like a list of things, and whenever I have a little money saved up, I can buy some things. This was my thought. It would be nice to have like a randomized splurge list. Or if like your kids get big achievements, they could submit their own ideas of things that they wanted to get for like big accomplishments at school, or that sort of thing. And then down below, I just have all of like the recent draws. So you could see by category, whenever you make one, you would assign like a color and an icon. So that shows you which one it is over here. It would tell you which one was drawn, the date it was drawn on, and who was the person who submitted it. So those are some examples of how that would work. And then you could click over here, and this just shows you all of the jars. So again, jars, long-term, and hats, temporary. It's a little bit out there. I don't know if it would quite translate, so that might be something I need.
No, it totally works.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you get it, Sean. That makes me feel a lot better. So people are going to be like, what is she doing talking about jars and hats? If you were to go and add, it would just pop this little bar up here at the bottom, where you could have 3 options. You could do a coin flip. So if you don't have a coin, who has coins anymore, you click on this, and I was going to try and animate this by actually having like a coin flip on the screen, and you could have heads or tails. And then the hat draw, which is like a single use set of items that you would put in there manually. And then the jar draw is multi-use. So this is the process that I built out. So you'd start by putting in, again, a name for it. You would select an icon and a color. And then you would choose, after an option, an individual option is John. Do you want that option to be returned to the jar, removed from the jar, or replaced with a new item? So I was trying to find ways where you could set it up so you could either have like an ongoing list, or for different situations, you could handle it differently. So if you choose return, then that second option disappears because it only applies if you hit remove, because the second option is when no options are left. And that would only happen if you were consistently removing items and not putting them back or replacing them. So that would be, if you hit remove, then you would select when no options are left. Do you want to return them all again? Do you want to archive the jar, or do you want to replace all? So I could talk through all the examples of when these would be used, but I think there's applicable reasons you could use all of them. So I was trying to make it as versatile as possible without it being too much work. So then you can say if you want a set number of options, or if it can just be as many as you want. I see this being good if you want to have like collaborators add options and you want to all put in like the same amount. So you could say, let's say the set number of options is 5. And then I could choose some friends if I wanted friends to be in this group. So let's say I have movie nights with friends once a week. And so I add some of my friends. I can search, add another friend. And then now these are my friends in this group, and I'll create the jar. And now I can go through and I can add my 5 things to the list. So I can go in and I can add these fantastic movies, and it tells me how many I have left up here at the top. If there wasn't a limit, you could just put as many as you wanted. And then you can see that you have 0 options left. And I say, you know what, I really, really wanted to put another movie, so I'm going to remove one, add another, so we can absolutely have Moana on the list as needed. So, and then you can submit your options, and it would tell you that movies has been created. So you can see here, so you can see here that now movies is actually here on the dashboard screen. And then at this point, anywhere you clicked draw slip, you would get this that comes up. So you would have your jar, and it would have the right amount of items in it, and you'd shake your phone. And so I tried to animate this pretty quickly here at the end, but it doesn't look fantastic. But the idea is all these things would respond to your phone, so you could shake them, and then you could click and drag out the option that you wanted. And that's as far as I got. But the idea was then it would expand, and you would see the movie name, and then everyone in the group would be notified. Point being that you were probably doing these things when you were together, but if it would just notify everyone and basically keep track, and it would also keep an additional running tally, so you could see who had, the most. We like to keep score of ours because we're competitive in all things. So it was just a really simple idea. It wasn't meant to be anything crazy, but I thought it would be something that I would use, and so I just wanted to explore it. I'm pretty happy with what I did within the time frame. So yeah, I think it turned out pretty well. So any questions?
But I remember you saying you kept a tally in somewhere, so I was curious if that was going to be a part of it. And by the way, you just said, "Oh, that's all I got." What do you mean you designed an entire app? Damn.
Sorry. No, I didn't think I was going to get very far past the initial like building and like setting up of a jar. But then once I had that done, everything else just really came together pretty quickly. So yeah, I think it turned out. I was actually pretty surprised with how much I got done.
This is very impressive, Aubrey. I love it. I have one question. This is more of like a feature idea. I have found a lot of use in like random number generating tools for funny, like picking of a certain number for something. Do you think there would be maybe some set jars or set hats that you could include as like a preset, or something that you think users would want without them having to go in and add content?
Yes and no. So I was trying to, so Sean and I had talked about this a little bit yesterday on if would it be smart to like have movies be one, and then it would actually like incorporate movie info from like another website and give you details on things, or having some of those preset options. I initially thought that it'd be better not to, because I think people could use this in all sorts of ways. And I would like, if we were to actually make this an app, I think it'd be cool to see what people think of using it for. I think kind of the options are kind of endless. Like you could put in one that constantly repeats. It's a 2 option, and it could be who's taking out the garbage, and it randomizes time between you and your significant other, right? So my initial idea was movies, but I really think that if it was made and people liked it, it could be applied in all sorts of different ways. So that was the reason I was kind of trying to go away from presets. But if people were going on and doing the same things consistently, I think that that could be a good idea, or at least maybe having like recommended options, even if there's not built-in options there.
Nice. I like how simple it is.
Thanks. Any more questions? I'm almost at time.
I see you opted for a dark mode. Was that intentional? Like you prefer that, or you wanted to try it?
Dark and colorful. Yeah, I don't usually design in dark mode, and I don't usually design with color very much. Well, bright colors, and if I have the choice not to. So I was just trying to do something a little bit different from my typical style and scheme. Yeah. So I've really gotten into dark mode on my phone recently, so I just thought I would try it out. It's a little weird. I don't like how you have to be so intense with things like drop shadows to actually have an effect. It just feels like a little bit designing. But I do like it. It's fun. Yeah, I definitely am, I think, going to the dark side on phone things. Okay, great. Well, that is it for me. I think next up we have Chris.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, so to introduce my app. So the app is called Place, but to introduce the app, it really kind of came out of me and kind of how I think. I can't for the life of me remember names of places or anything like that. So it's always like location based. So if my wife asks me like, hey, what's that place that we went to, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I have no idea, but I can look it up on a map like that. So I go on Google Maps and I'm searching and I can find it really fast. And so for whatever reason, my brain is so wired spatially. And so I thought, what if there was a way of being able to log and track things that are personal to you based on geolocation, whether that be photos or notes or videos or tags, whatever you want, all kind of connected to a geolocation. And so that was kind of the introduction, or not the introduction, the concept behind this app called Place. So I'm going to start in here. So I've got my app. I'm going to open it up here. And so it's going to drop us in where we are on the map. We've got a couple little icons here, but here I am on Haversham Street, and I just had a really great meal. I had met some friends, and we went out and we went to this place called Green Truck Pub, and we had some good burgers. And I was like, man, I want to come back to this place. So I'm going to add a pin. And so I get my little card here. And so I'm going to go in here. I'm going to name my pin, give it a name, Green Truck Pub. But I want to add a few other things. I took a few photos of my food. So I'm going to add a photo. I could select whether I want to take a photo with my camera or whether I want to select a photo from the photos that I've already taken. I've already taken some photos, so I'm going to select the photo. And I've got a few photos here. And so I'm going to select these two. And those will work fine. So we've got that. So we've got our photos added. We'll go back in here. And also I'm going to add a note because I want to have a little more context to what this place is on my map. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to add some notes in here. Great spot, for pub food, locally sourced food, made in-house, ketchup and pickles they make right there in the restaurant. The Trailer Park Burger is really good. Has really good pimento cheese. So we've added our note. Going to add that, and the day really caught up on me, and I thought, oh, that's all I'm going to get to. So we're going to save that pin, and now you can kind of see it. It's behind my pin right there. So, but if I were to go and click on that pin, I've got my pin right here. I could edit it if I wanted to, but that's the place. So yeah, that's my app. Anybody have any questions?
This is awesome because I'm the same way. Like I use Google Photos like map feature.
Yep.
I think this is so rad. And also, two questions. How much of this is based on a real world experience? Because it sounds like legitimate, and that sounds like a tasty burger.
Every day. Every day of my life. This is how my life works.
and so the search, like, how do you envision the search working? Like, you can search by like, note that you've taken, or like location, or something like that.
Yeah, so it could be like a note or a tag or a listing. So I would imagine it would pull up a listing of places, and you could filter by nearby or by tags, or you could actually search for specific tags. That was one of the main interactions I really wanted to get in there, was being able to set tags and then probably show that. The other one that I really wanted to build out in this, but I totally lost track of time, was notifications. So if you're coming up on something like, hey, this is this thing that you saved in your area. So another scenario I think of is like if you're a cyclist and there's this really terrible pothole that never gets fixed and it's always up there, and it could kind of notify you, hey, by the way, 200 feet pothole. So maybe it could kind of come through your AirPods or earbuds or whatever it is. So yeah, a couple thoughts there. I don't know if that answered your question. Did that answer your question?
Yes, totally. Yeah, tags, like notes and things. That's the aspect that you're searching for sure.
Yep.
So maybe you had this in there and I just didn't see it. Would you have an option to have your pins be like public or private, like along with the pothole idea?
Yes. So public or private, and my kind of thinking, kind of like how Aubrey had it. So it was like expanded to more than just movies. I would see this as kind of a platform for, if you're a blogger or something like that, and you're going around like, hey, here's all the places I'd recommend. You could make that public to people, or you could make it private to yourself.
That's so cool. I really want to use this. It's really awesome. Also, I think your animation at the beginning was really cool.
Oh, thanks. I spent way too long on it, but I guess that's animations, right?
Can you show us again, Chris?
Which, the animation?
Animation. Just run it again. Yes.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So cool. Nice work.
Thank you.
Did anybody not spend too much time on animations today?
I spend far too much time on animations.
I think it's just a symptom of being in the design challenges. You spend time where you don't always get to spend time. So
maybe next year we could have all of our screens made and the whole day is based on animations.
Ooh.
That's kind of what I did last year. Yeah, I took it. I mostly focused on like animations and transitions because that's what I found fun and don't often find myself doing.
Fair enough.
That's fun.
Any other questions? Oh, nope. Cool. I think Mary's next.
Perfect. Okay. Hello, everyone. Here we go. Here's my screen. I decided to design an app that I called Pedal. And this came out of the experience of moving from Kansas City to New York City. And I have had to furnish an apartment from nothing. So I've been really relying on apps like Facebook Marketplace to find used goods at like a pretty affordable price. And it's a little bit more eco-friendly way to shop. And it's been really good. So I enjoy using Facebook Marketplace. There's a lot of issues that I have with it, but something I have found in talking with a lot of other New Yorkers, especially people my age, a lot of people don't have Facebook anymore, or sometimes Facebook Marketplace is the very last reason why they still have Facebook. So there really aren't a lot of marketplace apps that are for people who don't want to have Facebook. So I also think that there's some kind of issues with the way Facebook Marketplace is created. I think the fact that, people don't go to Facebook to purchase things. And I think there could be something more dedicated for just a localized digital market. And I also added some fun features in here that felt really relevant to what it's like to live in New York City. So this is my brand. I will go ahead and get started showing the application. I spent a lot of time on actually not the animations, but the information architecture and trying to lay out every page. So there's a lot of pages, but a lot of them are not fully designed. But there's a few that I spent a little bit more time on. So we can take a look, do one little animation. So one thing that I found would be helpful in a local digital marketplace is some sort of For You page. This is becoming really popular with things like TikTok, being able to surface products that Petal thinks that you might like, or maybe you're looking for. If they can tell you've been searching for couches or certain types of furniture or certain brands, they can surface specific products that are related to that. There's also a tab that I've included called Pick Up Now, because one of my frustrations with Facebook Marketplace is the fact that I will want to grab something today. Maybe it's a Saturday that I'm just trying to get a bunch of furniture or something like that. And turns out that the person who has listed this isn't available until Thursday at 2 p.m. And so it doesn't really fit into my system for how I want to pick up products and go purchase things from people. So to keep that really simple, this could be maybe more of a quick purchasing kind of tool. So you hop in here, you know you want to pick up some stuff, and then you can search through things that are ready to go right away. And then we've got a tab for new products as well. This also is very location based. So for instance, in one of these tabs, so within a product page, I included a estimated time away from your location. So I find I'll get really interested in some piece of furniture or something, and then I realize that this table is a 30-minute walk away from where I live, and it doesn't really make sense to use the train. It doesn't really make sense to take a car. It might be more expensive than it's worth. So in order to kind of eliminate that pain point of getting excited about a product and then realizing it's not going to fit into your life, being able to see that something is ready to go right now. And I've got this down here as well. Pick up availability today from 4 to 9 p.m. You can pick this table up, and it's only a 12-minute walk away. So maybe you can grab a friend and you know exactly what you're getting into before you even make an offer or start to chat with the lister. So just wanted to be a little bit more upfront about the limitations and the process before you get really sold on a product. Another thing that I think would be helpful is the ability to see the products from that specific seller. So maybe it's a 12-minute walk and you can pick up these free candlesticks there as well. And maybe this ceramic tray for $30, something like that. So you can kind of truncate or group together your trips. And I've found that sometimes sweetens the deal to see that someone's also giving away a little mug or something like that. And it really shows you exactly where you're going to have to go. So there's just a few little details that I've included in here to make this a little bit more clean and clear from the beginning. The make an offer feature is helpful. I think there's some marketplaces that already have something similar, but you can just make an offer really quick instead of having to have this back and forth conversation and wait for the lister to get back to you. So you can kind of get things moving really quickly. I also mocked up a version that has multiple different images just to kind of play with that transition and animate those a little bit, and you can kind of scroll through them from the list page as well. Pretty simple. And then there's also the opportunity to like things or kind of favorite your products. And then when you go back to your homepage, we've got a whole dedicated page for your saved listings, because sometimes you just want to gather a bunch of different options. It's almost like your cart when you're trying to purchase something. And then when you're feeling like you're ready to actually make a commitment, you can go into that, make an offer, or start chatting with them. And then you've got a chat section to this application as well, where you can kind of keep track of your conversations with the listers. If those happen, I think one goal of this product would be to limit the amount of conversations you need to have with the listers. I think being able to just make an offer really quick, know that you can pick it up at this specific time, know that it's super close to you, is really helpful. Because with Facebook Marketplace, I usually have to ask where they live. It takes 30 minutes for them to get back to me, and then I'm disappointed because they are 100 blocks away. There's also a space for your own profile here if you are a seller as well. I haven't really fleshed this out at all. And then this is where you would make your listings. And then the list an item is just a very simple form. So a lot of pages that I've gotten started in, but haven't really fully fleshed out yet. But it's been really fun playing with the branding. I really wanted to play with the dark mode because I never really get to design in dark mode. I wanted to play with pops of color because generally I gravitate towards a lot of color. And so I kind of wanted to limit the color that I used and then play with some different states, like what could it look like to highlight that something's free. We've also, just a couple more things. I added a category little drawer so you can select a category and just look at one specific type of item. And then there'd also be a search page so you can kind of avoid these pre-filters and really search through all products that are within a certain radius. So yeah, it's been really fun to take an idea that kind of exists out there and try to improve it as much as I can. And it's a very specific use case to what I've been going through lately, but I know that a lot of people would also enjoy something like this. So that is Petal. It's been a lot of fun. Are there any questions or comments about this?
I really like this, Mary. This is cool. I was literally just having a conversation with Justin about this because we are trying to sell a bunch of stuff from our wedding, and I'm the only one with a Facebook. And I was like, you could get a Facebook, so you could also sell it. And maybe if this was real, then he wouldn't need one, and that would be fantastic for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. I have a friend who just moved, and they were like, "You're gonna have to come over and look at Facebook Marketplace for me because I don't have a Facebook, but I really want to see what's out there." So, I think it's kind of a helpful tool. I like what Ashley said about the star rating. I think that's also something that I look at because I get kind of nervous. I usually only purchase from women. I kind of try to check them out and make sure that it looks like a place that I would be comfortable going to because you never really know what you're getting into. So being able to rate your interaction with the lister when you purchase something, I think would be a helpful tool. Great.
Very nice, Mary.
Anything else? Thanks. It's been fun.
All righty, Sean.
Coming at you with not a dark mode, a very bright mode. Guys, you know what? I should not design consumer apps. I have one note, and that note is purple and very bright. But look at this.
Oh my gosh.
As you were saying this, I just tried this for the first time. Dark mode magic. Look at this. That's a plugin.
Wow.
Whoa.
So like, what if you could design an entire app and then just apply that? Of course, this is an image in the background. It's not like a real thing, but wouldn't that be nuts? I think that's the whole point. Hello, my name is Sean, and I have something to show. It is Wander. So the idea, this came from Mary, really grateful for it because I really like the idea itself. I didn't really have a concept, but she proposed like this random walk generator app. And I love it because if I were to go on a walk, it would be something, just a familiar place or a route that I know. But the idea behind this is that it just introduces sort of randomness. Now, I have sort of a working kind of logo idea. But what I actually explored isn't just like completely random. And maybe I should just go through the prototype like everyone else. There's some like criteria you can do behind it to set up a more like exploratory walk than something just completely random. But so the idea, you open up this page and probably there could be more here. I thought like an idea of like recent walks or favorited walks would be cool. So again, not the idea that it's completely random, but something that introduces a new route or something into your kind of something more familiar. But maybe down here like a card or something that has like favorited routes or things like that, right? You went to a park you didn't know existed. So right now it's super Spartan. Maybe you could start from another location, but I think pretty typically you just open it up like you're at home or at the office and you say walk. And so I found that I spent a lot of my time today. My app is super simple here. If I go back, there are only like a handful of actual pages because the majority of the function is like you actually interact with these like criteria cards here. This is like a long animation, and then you get some sort of results. So a lot of what I'm going to show is just most of the functionality is here. But so basically, I imagine you could do it. You choose another location to start and like schedule something for later, right? If you knew it was going to be cooler in the afternoon, you could start a walk later. But something I also consider is like, well, if I'm at home, I want to make it back to my house probably. So I want to loop, or otherwise you're like, I want to walk to a coffee shop. And so you can go either by a loop or a destination and say, I'm, looking for a coffee shop or something like that. And then you could say, within, 3 miles of my house or something. So that was like one of the main ideas, again, to kind of rein in the idea that it's completely random. You also have somewhat of a say over what you get served up. And then some other cool things could be things that are, you wanted to pass a park on the way, or, stop by the river or something on the way. Things that like, maybe exist, but don't know, you wouldn't normally walk there or know how to get there. And other just like simple things like, are there sidewalks? Like my neighborhood doesn't have sidewalks. So I couldn't check this. I would walk nowhere. So simple things like this that make your walk more safer, more fun, more convenient. And then so something like this, which wouldn't be as like prescriptive as like, I want to go 2 miles. This is like elevation. Do you want it to be fairly easy, kind of not easy, and then hard? So something like this, I thought would be cool to introduce, some control, but like leave it more ambiguous. And then when you start the walk, this is just like a little simple animation, but a couple things are happening here. Like this would highlight, it would kind of consider things around you and say, there's a park here, there's a coffee shop here, and there's like a, performing arts center here. So things that actually make up 1 mile route that might not be a traditional route, you kind of go like, around to get to these things. And as you pass them, potentially these little chips down here are checked, by geographically, right? You pass through a park, and so that one got checked. And then also kind of like just tracks, I'll just kind of restart this because it's super fast. And it just kind of tracks your distance over time. And probably you could, quit the walk anytime, but there's really not much else here. Like I can imagine if you're in the middle of a walk and you hold this to quit it. But otherwise, you complete your 1 mile route and you end your walk, and great job. And just a summary of what you've done, kind of some little insights there. And otherwise, like, I imagine from here, you could save it, right? Like, this was an awesome one. I went to Mildred's and it was great. But really all I have is like, okay, you're done. And you start another one. So it's sort of time limitations and half baked from that point. But yeah, that's the idea. Thanks, Mary.
You really took it and ran with it. I love this.
Yeah, I'm actually so curious if this at all resembles what you had in mind. But yeah, that's basically it. And again, like, yeah, so the components page was like really cool to get all these things down. I did a bit of like interactive components. So that was cool to do. And then again, yeah, a lot of the functionality is just in these couple cards here. So that's kind of where most of the focus was, because that's kind of the only control that you have. So.
When you guys said that he took it and ran with it, I wanted to say that he walked with it, but that
that was perfect.
Good one.
That seemed like because you did running was more accurate, but
I actually almost did like a walk, run, or bike option, but I thought like I quickly stripped those out in the morning because like probably there are other apps for it and don't really meet the criteria of like exploring probably as much.
Yeah, I mean, George seems very excited about the idea of this being for cycling, so maybe V2.
Oh, did you say that somewhere?
Yeah.
Sorry, George. I know you're a big Strava fan. You don't need this. All right, here we go. See, bright and purple and fat. I can only do one thing.
I love it.
Well, thank you.
It's really your signature.
Yeah.
I would put pink in every app if I could justify it.
Today, I hope to see pink today.
There's a little pink today, I think.
Oh, good.
Pink today.
Cool. That's all I've got.
Good job. All right.
Great work. All right, Steph, last but not least.
All right. So the app that I made today is called Ponder. I came up with this idea last night, so I just spent a lot of time today figuring out what it actually was. But I had the idea floating in my head to make like a question of the day sort of app, because I think question of the days are awesome. And specifically got that from my friend Molly, who's asked me a question of the day every work day since November, my old coworker. So shout outs to her in like all over this app. But we also do this at Crema. We have a Slack channel, and we do it every Lab Friday. We have a question of the day. So I think they're awesome. And so I wanted to make it not just like a question of the day, but kind of more of a social media app. So I kind of ran with that a little bit. There's a lot of concept explaining here. So we'll see if the app actually makes any sense. So you come into the app and you'll see a feed of questions. I really liked the idea. I kind of went back and forth on this, but I really liked the idea that it would be a text-based app, because one thing that I was thinking for social media is that a lot of it's very fast-paced, kind of like mindless scrolling. So I wanted something that would be like a little slower and like just encourage you to like think and like talk to people. So I didn't want to add photo backgrounds or anything like that, but I thought colors would be helpful to just kind of differentiate the feed visually. So you can come in here and see a variety of different questions. So here's the Crema question for today from George. And then I threw a couple from Molly that I've gotten in here before too. And so the other thing that I took from Instagram for this was that whenever somebody like posts a comment on Instagram, I feel like that's the end. Like, cool, you're just commenting on something you saw. But when you have an Instagram story and someone replies to your Instagram story, since it goes to DMs, oftentimes that can spark conversation. So from that, I wanted to have answering a question always be private. So you can post your questions publicly, but whenever you respond to somebody's question, it'll go straight to them so they can respond to it. And then maybe, you'll have a discussion or they'll answer the question and you can see their answer. So if you come down here and you wanted to answer this question, you can swipe on it and you have a ton of options, which I'll get into in a second. But if you want to go ahead and answer this question, it'll pull that up and you can answer the question. So it says, answers are always private. So you can type your answer. This was my answer at the time. To an unanswerable question is the secrets of ancient Egypt. Like, how did they build the pyramids? We'll never know. So then that goes to your DMs with the person. So they could then answer the question too, or you could just chat about it. And I want some way to like be able to also log like, not just like, this isn't just a regular DM. Like I want you to be able to go through all the questions you've ever answered. So if you've answered like hundreds of questions with like a really good friend of yours, then you can go back and see that. So somebody has a profile and that just has all of their public questions. So these can be questions that you've come up with yourself, or you can also publicly reshare questions that are just like really interesting to you. So that would be a way that you could just like spark conversation with someone you kind of know, and you're interested in some of the same things based on the kinds of questions that you're sharing. So that could spark some conversation there too. And then you can also see like some stats with your person. So kind of like a snap streak in Snapchat, you can have a streak of questions with somebody. You can see like the first time you ever talked, or how many questions you've answered. And then let's see. Okay, so then if you want to post a question, you can post a question publicly, or you can make like a specific question to just one person. So you'd be able to change that here. This is another one of Molly's questions that I really liked. What are 3 things that aren't related but have the same energy? So here are a few different types. So you could say you want everybody to have like a list when they respond to your question, or you could want responses in photos or whatever. You could pick multiple if you're open to whatever. So you can pick lists, you can pick your color, and then that'll show up. So then the last piece of it that I got to today was I wanted to, some of these questions are like really hard, which I think is awesome. Maybe you need to go find something or make a playlist for it, or just like think about it because it's kind of weird and out there. So if you swipe on here, one of your options is to ponder it. So that'll tell the other person that your question was interesting to them. So maybe they'll follow up with you, and then you can say that you want a reminder on it. So like maybe you're just checking your phone in the morning and you're like, oh, okay, I want to think about this today. And you can remind yourself, and then you can be reminded about it in the evening. Yeah, so I think that's all I got to today.
I love this so much.
It's gorgeous. And you thought of this last night?
Yeah.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
nuts. You must have really envisioned like what it could be, because it is well thought. You pondered it.
I did ponder it, yes. We were pondering and wandering. Yeah, there is much pondering about how this should be structured. I have so many thoughts for it. I hope that I can work on it more, because I think it was really fun to think about. Obviously, I've never designed a social media app before, so that was very different for me.
This is so cool. I have a question. I could see this being really fun with like family group chats or something like that. I know my family sends stuff like this sometimes. Would you imagine like a group being able to respond as a group, or like prompt users, specific group of users or something?
Yeah, I did. I remember thinking about that at one point, and then I kind of scrapped it because I just had no idea how I would structure that to have it be like groups but not public. But I feel like if you could like make a group or something, that would be really cool, because absolutely. I was thinking this would be a cool app to use. Like, I really wish I could have used this with like my grandma or something. Like, what kind of questions does my grandma have? Or like vice versa. Like, if I could just get a bunch of questions going with her, or like, you know, share some public questions, I think that would be really cool.
I love that. Oh, great work.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is really cool. I loved when when we first started doing the question of the day. It was like a great way to connect, and I just think that this would be something that would be really cool. The fact that you could integrate it into other social media is awesome. I would totally use this. This is really great work.
Thanks. Cool. Good job, everybody. We did it.
Woo! Woo! Big day.
Yes. That's fun.
Okay. It looks like we just had mostly comments. We don't have a ton of questions. We'll give everyone a minute. If you have any questions, put them in. And if we don't get any, then we can call it a day.
So much support. Zero confusion.
Yeah, I think our team we have a very excitable staff. I'm glad that they all enjoyed this as much as we do.
So supportive.
Well, I don't see any questions, so if that is it, we can go. Oh wait, what was the most difficult part of this? For me, it was coming up with the idea. I came up with mine last night too, or yesterday afternoon. I always like think of things that are too complicated, and so I was just like, I need to think of something far more simple. And our jar was sitting in front of me, and I was like, that could be an app. So yeah, just coming up with the idea is always the thing that is the most difficult from my perspective. How about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I struggled, and then was fortunate to have something that like I cared about, right? If it was an idea that you don't feel passionately about, it's hard to even begin that. But I feel like I was more prepared last year, had envisioned like what would be on different screens and things like that. This year, I kind of knew I wasn't prepared, but I was like, just kind of accepted it. Like, okay, I could have stayed up probably preparing for it. I didn't. And so. Yeah, George had a question.
Oh, real quick. I'd say the hardest part for me was just, I don't know, getting it all lined up and making it all work within the time frame given. That's, I mean, pretty obvious, but it was a lot harder than I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, the idea was the hardest part for me, but then also just like deciding what to focus on. Like, do I want to not design as many screens, or do I want to, decide I don't like this piece of it and just deal with it? Or like expert challenge in prioritization.
I was going to say the same thing, Steph. I really struggled with getting too like nitty gritty on some stuff that's pretty basic and probably simple, and not really like letting myself play with new feature ideas. And I wish I would have kind of set aside some stuff that I didn't need to think about and I could come back to it later.
Yeah, so George asked that question, what did you not get to that you hoped you could have? That's kind of an outstanding question that I wanted to ask you all. It's like, knowing where you got to today, if you could dive back into it at another point, like what would you address first? I mean, that's not his question. That was kind of how I was thinking of it.
I would, for me at least, I mean, I kind of said it in my part of the presentation, but I would have expanded a few of the flows of like adding tags, but then also kind of, I think Steph, you asked the question like, is this, public? And the answer is yeah. I would have loved to have been able to show that aspect of it, of kind of sharing out your pins.
For me, I think like I had like all the different types of answers you could have, like if you had a list or a video or anything like that. And I only designed the UI for typing, so I don't know how that would look. And then also I wanted to build out what it would look like to like review all of your questions and answers, because I think having a record of that versus just trying to search in like a messenger log would be cool.
I wanted to finish out my whole flow of what it actually looked like to pull something out of the jar, and then do the setup for the hat draw to show how that would be different. I was trying to think of all the different ways you would need to do random selection. I was reading a lot of probability stuff this morning, and then I started going into a situational, so I stopped. But if I had more time, I would like to finish out that last flow I was doing, and then kind of work through the other options and make sure that I kind of have the whole gamut covered without making it too complex.
Yeah, I really wanted to investigate a little bit more about the purchase process of some sort of digital marketplace. I know when I was sharing this idea earlier this week or last week, Steph had the idea of maybe putting like a hold on a product or some sort of item, and then maybe doing like a down payment or something to really ensure that that purchase is actually going to go through, and you can trust that when you go pick it up, it's going to be there. So some ideas that could have made that whole flow a little bit more simple for users that I just couldn't get to yet, but next time.
Yeah, I've literally done that on Facebook Marketplace. So you just like negotiate it.
Oh, yeah, you'd have to talk through it, but maybe
totally.
there's some.
No, that's
yeah.
awesome. I totally get that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Venmo integration too. I just saw George's comment. Yeah, some sort of like Cash App, Venmo. Yeah, being able to like actually hold it.
Yeah.
Because I've lost stuff before and it's frustrating.
Yeah, and it's so hard as a buyer to try and like expect people to show up and then they don't.
Totally. Yeah.
I started to.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, I when George's question came in, like I literally didn't know what I would do, but as I thought about it more, I began to touch on like you're hitting these checkpoints, right? As you go around, like on a walk, there are things around your city you may not have seen, and I think playing into that to gamify that piece and like kind of collect those and as markers that you've been to, and that's the idea of like saving a walk or a favoriting a walk, or just at least having some sort of the way to save the progress that you've made walking around your city, visiting new places. So I hadn't thought of that until I was like literally probably played it here in the demo and saw this little dot walking around the screen.
You can integrate with Chris's app.
Yeah, dude.
That'd be cool.
Wandering
Genius.
places. Oh, and then Pamela had a question. What is different from the design challenge last year since Figma has better functionality now? I would say what's interesting is like to that question, they feel like I know Figma better now. Like last year, nothing was grouped correctly, framed correctly, probably didn't use auto layout whatsoever. So simply using the tool as it's meant to be used probably is where I found improvement. But also spent a ton of time making sure like components were pixel perfect before I even put them into an object or something. So.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I went back and looked at my old design challenge file the other day, and it's so messy and just inefficient. And I think I could have made more improvements faster on my app if I had been using components properly and auto layout. And I really leaned on auto layout in this one, and it was so much easier. Didn't have to do a lot of like futzing around with tiny little nudging stuff, you know? So definitely was able to get stuff out faster.
For me, last year, I made the mistake of doing a desktop app, and it was so much work just to do like a screen. And so like I wasn't able to get into the details as much as I wanted to. So when I was thinking about this year, I knew I was going to do something mobile, which I feel like just allowed me to get a lot more done and explore a lot more different areas than I was able to last year.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, Chris, Steph, how was it different?
I'm excited to do it when I have a year of Figma experience. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But, and also I didn't even think about that because I feel like coming up with a mobile app idea seemed harder than a desktop app idea, but it definitely was probably way easier to design it. So that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. Does like anyone watching know that we all agreed to do mobile? Like it wasn't just happenstance. Like we agreed to do that. So I like that constraint. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys. Did you end up using the Figma Mirror app at all? I can pull it up. It's been so helpful on my phone to like actually, oh man, this is.
No, it worked. Oh, it's mirrored. It's mirrored.
Yeah, but to like actually click through my prototype has been really, really fun. I don't know if that's something that you guys tried.
I did, but I have an older iPhone, and so it would like, and I was using iPhone 10, 11 size, and so it didn't really work. But also, there's a beta for a better Figma app in general, and I just don't have access to it. But the Miro app effectively becomes a much better app, but I don't have access to it. But I would love to have used it, but I chose a different format to the detriment that I can't use it on my own phone.
Yeah, it definitely helped me with like making sure that something was mobile friendly. You can kind of tell when you're looking at the prototype on your desktop, but you can really tell when you're clicking around in your phone.
Yep. And it feels good. It feels real.
It does. It's really fun.
I think that's it, guys. I think that's all of our questions. Well, thank you to everyone who tuned in. We're so appreciative that you spent an hour with us at the end of your Friday. Check out our design challenge. If anyone did come in later, I saw a few comments saying that. This will be posted to our YouTube channel later. So make sure to come back and watch it from the beginning. So thank you guys so much for joining, and to the designers for all of your hard work.
Thank you all.
See you guys later.